So raise your hand if you have not heard about carbon sequestration. Right, I've heard of it too. Can't make heads or tails of it most of the time. So what do you get when you sit a Boilermaker and an old rusty Marine in the woods? You get an episode of Talking with Soterra about carbon sequestration. Andy Callahan sits down with me to discuss everything it means to be in the voluntary carbon market, how it works, how things are produced, and how Soterra's doing it. So sit back and enjoy this one and learn a little bit. So thanks. Have a good one.
Good afternoon, everybody. I had promised a while ago, a few videos ago, that the sun would come out down here, and it has finally done that, thank goodness. I am in Lamar County, Mississippi, and I am joined by the pride of Terre Haute, Indiana, via Mobile, via Spanish Fort, via, what's the new place?
Fairhope,
Alabama. Andy Callahan, Director of Business Development at Soterra. I've been waiting a long time to do this, man. This is pretty cool. Today, we're going to talk about something that's really new with Soterra, really futuristic in my mind, but it's something that Andy's been working on. So what we're talking about is carbon sequestration. I know everybody has heard about this in Greif. We've been waiting to make a video about it, and today's the day. So how are you, my friend?
I'm well.
Good.
I'm well. I mean, it's February and it's 70 degrees out here, so
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah. So let's just get right into it. So, when I first heard this, I didn't really understand it, and I still don't completely understand it. So the way that I want to kind of do this today is just explain to me like I'm 5. I don't understand. So first off, I guess, where'd you come up with this? Where did you get this idea to do this thing?
Well, that makes 2 of us about being not fully understanding the process. And that's kind of the thing, is it's such a new market, being the voluntary carbon market. So in a nutshell, it's...
Wait, where'd you come up with the idea first, though? That's what's important to me.
Well, I mean, you can watch, any network, and when the commercials come on, you see commitments to be net zero. You see, by 2030, we're going to buy all renewable energy.
Right.
So, I mean, it's every corporation that you've ever heard of establishing these ESG targets, mostly around sustainability. Most of what they're talking about is trying to plant more trees. I mean, it's what we do every day at Soterra. I mean, we grow trees. And so it's a natural fit. And
so I thought that you were like riding down the road and like you were listening to a podcast and you had this epiphany. That's not how it went?
That followed.
There we go.
I mean, I got into deep. I went down a lot of rabbit holes with different podcasts and articles, and just started spitballing ideas with David Johns and you and anybody, honestly, that wanted to talk about it. I mean, it just became fascinating to me.
You talk about it a lot.
Sorry, probably where you at?
It's all good. Okay, so let's break it down then. So the big question is, what is the voluntary carbon market?
Sure. So all those commercials that you see when people are making these commitments, they can change all their light bulbs to LEDs. They can buy all kinds of electric vehicles. They can do a lot of things. But in the end, there's going to be a delta between getting to net zero and what they can actually reduce.
I like the
carbon
delta. This makes you sound real smart.
So to close that gap, they're going to rely on people that can establish a credit for offsetting a metric ton of CO2.
Okay.
So you get a credit for every ton that you have absorbed out of the atmosphere. So the idea is that you want to provide what's called additionality to taking out carbon. That's above and beyond a baseline of what you would normally do on your operations. So for us to do that, we need, and this is by the standards that are set, we need to set up acreage and volume that we don't intend to harvest, that we might normally would have harvested or restrict that amount of harvest. We can still harvest the timber.
Okay.
But Soterra is going to make the commitment not to harvest those areas.
Okay, so there was a choice there then, I guess.
There's a choice there. And
so,
all that has to be verified by third party.
Okay.
And they will establish how many credits you're issued.
Okay.
And then there is this digital marketplace to trade these credits.
Right. Okay, so I guess, let me ask this. So where we're sitting right now, we're sitting in a stand of beautiful pine trees, right? We are actually sitting in a carbon stand that we have said we are not going to cut, right? I mean, it's pretty big stuff.
That's correct. So we could harvest these timbers. This timber, we will set this aside. Most of what our carbon areas are going to be what's called streamside management zones.
Okay.
So these are buffers along wetland areas, perennial streams. Historically, we've gone in and removed the pine out of those areas when we're harvesting an adjacent pine stand. This is a pine straw stand. We harvest the pine needles here for landscape material. So there's a benefit to us to letting these trees grow.
Sure.
So this makes for a good candidate as well.
Well, so let's talk about Soterra and how Soterra fits in this whole thing. So what makes Soterra a prime candidate for this sort of thing?
Well, I mean, it's really just being an arm of Greif in terms of helping them with their sustainability targets, trying to reduce Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions by 28% by 2030. And so Greif can do a lot of things to get there, but there's going to be, that delta that needs to be made up. Now, we probably not going to be able to do all of it, but the agreement that we're setting up allows us the ability to sell some of those credits to Greif.
Oh, to Greif. Okay, so see, I didn't get that. So not only is this benefiting Soterra, this whole thing, because we're entering the voluntary carbon market, but essentially Greif is entering it with us as well.
That's
because
correct.
I think, did you say that by 2030? Is it 2030 that they have some emission goals?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, so how does a project like this affect Greif? I mean, it's one thing to say, by 2030 we want to do this, but how does that work?
So it's just a portion of all the credits that we will generate. We have the ability, should Greif need them, we could utilize those credits towards their emission offset.
Okay, so I got you.
Most of what we're going to do is we're going to sell on the open market, the voluntary market. But we can, if Greif needs them, we can.
Okay, so like in your carbon in your back pocket, so to speak. Got you. Okay, so now let's shift gears to something a little different, but still in that sustainable, renewable, green sort of thing. So solar leases. So Soterra, we provide leases for solar farms. How in the world does that work?
Well, it goes back quite a ways. So we were approached one time by a solar developer long ago, back in 2015. We optioned a property over in Alabama with this company. And in my mind, this was going to be like in 12 months, they were going to get all their tax exemptions and they were going to be building this solar farm.
Right.
In like 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So they kind of thought the same thing too.
Right.
Political landscapes change, tariffs happen. There's a lot of pushback on green initiatives.
Right.
It's 2023. We still don't have a solar farm constructed on us. But in the meantime, we've reached out to a lot of big-name solar developers. We've got options in place. We have 24 properties that are optioned or leased for Soterra for utility solar farms.
Any idea, like the acreages on that? Like, could you give a ballpark figure?
If they built a solar panel on every acre that we have optioned, it'd be about 60,000 acres.
Okay.
But you can take 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
And you can probably only build on 300 or 400.
Right.
Because you've got wetland areas that you can't disturb.
Right.
I mean, you've got streamside management zones you can't build into. You may have excessive slope that they don't want to try and level off. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. So it's a very small percentage that would actually be built.
Right.
But these options and leases are on a per acre basis. So the more acreage that we can option and lease, the better. Because in the meantime, we're also just going to continue growing our timber and operating as we always have been. So it's a great benefit.
Sure. Well, it's crazy because I can remember before I came to Soterra, I worked for another major wood business industry. We won't get into who that was, but I remember hearing stuff about Soterra when I was over there, and like how Soterra, you know, they always did different things, cutting edge sort of things. They were willing to try stuff, right? Always. I heard that. And then when I got over here, you know, you really start to see that. So I guess my question on that is like, it seems like over the past couple years, about a couple years, let's say, that there's a shift going on at Soterra, right? Like we're moving more towards, you know, this idea of, are the trees more valuable standing up than they are laid down? So why is Soterra going that route? Like, what is it? The climate what is it? What makes us want to go this way?
There's not one single answer, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like if you go and you meet with your financial manager and they want you to diversify what you're investing.
Yeah.
You know, timber is our bread and butter.
Sure.
But one of the goals that we have at Soterra for 2023 is to have our non-timber revenue streams be more than 50% of our net income.
Right.
So
you were close. We were close to that last year.
We were real close. We were 47%.
Right.
So we could get there in 2023. Some things need to happen that are close. So it's really just about trying to diversify, and why we're going that route is just, it's in our wheelhouse. You know, it's like, there's this old George Jones song that was, I was country before country was cool.
Whoa, dude.
I mean,
whoa.
Soterra has been sustainable since before sustainable was cool. So
look at this guy.
It's it just fits right into what we do.
Right.
So it's kind of a no-brainer to explore these opportunities, and it's good to have the support of leadership. That makes it really intriguing to try out and look into these things, because some of these might not pan out. You know, the voluntary carbon market, you hear a lot of, this month it'll be negative, next month it'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's back and forth. There's things need to improve on how they audit some of these businesses and the validity of the credits. And so
I got to be honest, I really thought going into this interview between two trees, if you will, that I was going to hear some kind of shameless plug about Purdue basketball or some kind of junk like that. But you brought up George Jones, the king. Okay. Well, so we've known each other, I don't know how long. Let's see, I've been with Soterra for close to 8 years now. So it's been around 8 years, right? And one thing I've always respected about you is you have this forward-thinking deal going on, like where there's always some kind of idea that you got going on, whether that be, you know, this pine straw stuff, or whether it be solar, or whether this carbon thing you just blew out of the park, you know, with it. I guess where does it come from? Like, see, I'm more of the maintainer guy, and you're more of the thinking stuff up type guy.
You know, I got injured in a bad car accident back in 2010.
Yeah.
And I can get around just fine. But if I get in the woods with like David Gill or Pat Mitchell, those guys will leave me in the dust. Like I cannot keep up. Like I'm somewhat physically restricted in what I can do in the woods. So at one point it was like, you feel like, God, how can I contribute to help these guys out?
Right.
And the drone thing came along.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a great addition for us. It has been. It keeps evolving into new things. We might be able to use it on some solar farm stuff. And it's just one of those things where it's like, gosh, if I could come up with ways to help them do their jobs better, be safer, that's my contribution.
Right.
And I feel like that helps me stay motivated on doing some of that stuff. It's like, what can I do that's different than what because the forestry world is antiquated. It doesn't change.
Right.
I mean, it works. Don't get me wrong. So they don't ever change anything. And how you cruise. Yeah. I mean, you saw in the cruising video, Martin talks about the advancements that we've made, and that's all just recent. I mean, for 100 years, they've measured trees the exact same way.
Was that the most awesome video you've ever seen?
I mean, it's until this one.
Like top 3.
Maybe top 3.
So, yeah, I get it. That makes complete sense. So, 10.5 years you've been with Soterra, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you think of when you first got here, okay, and the way it was, and then you think of it now. So, I guess, what has that been like for you to see? Because, I mean, I've been here for 8 years, and things have changed. I mean, it's crazy, and it seems like we've just gotten, like, bigger and better, stronger and faster, all that kind of stuff. But, like, what for you? Because you're kind of a legacy guy. So, like, what is it like for you?
It's bizarre because at times you feel like you're still the new guy,
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of, there's a lot of new people. But I just get excited when most people don't like going to a meeting. I mean, that's just
okay.
what it is.
Uh-huh.
But, we have these strategy meetings where we get together and we brainstorm some crazy ideas. Who can handle this? Who can do that?
Right.
What should we be doing? And that stuff is motivating for me.
Yeah.
And so we used to do that, but it was still just trying to build the businesses that you were already working on.
Right.
Now it's, how do you get to that next plateau?
Sure.
What are you going to do? And stuff like that is what I think is going to change Soterra and keep changing Soterra.
Right.
I think there's still some exciting things that are coming.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to the next couple of years at least.
Again, I said this to Martin on the cruising video. You just gave that big, long, eloquent answer, and like not one bit of it said anything about meeting Josh, working with Josh. I just don't. Anyway, maybe we should just end this interview. I mean, I want to give you the opportunity to say.
Well, I mean, I enjoy working with you.
Yeah. That's good. So look, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you learned something about the carbon market. It's really something that, is confusing and it's new and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to shed a little light on what we have going down here at Soterra. So, Andy, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I understand it a little bit better now. So anyway, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you with the next video real soon. Bye.
Bye.